guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video I'll be doing my AFL predictions for the 2025 season, doing a ladder based on what I thought initially, and then doing a ladder based on the game by game tipping each one. And then you'll also have Coleman, Brownlow, Rising Star, All-Australian debut, best recruit, and then also the Premiership and how that rolls out. So anyway, let's just jump into this video. So when I initially did the ladder just by sort of going through and placing the teams, not by game tipping, I came out with Brisbane still finishing first. It was kind of a hard one to look at, especially because I didn't really like any of the teams to really finish first. I didn't think many would be able to necessarily challenge Brisbane and some other teams up there near the top. I thought there was a lot of third, fourth, fifth teams rather than sort of that number one team, which obviously someone could come out of the woodwork like the Swans did last year and just go off and blow themselves out and just smash it and then somehow fall apart. But that's why Brisbane were up first, Geelong second, Collingwood third. I have them rising up the ladder. I think Dan Houston will be a really, really valuable recruit, and alongside Perryman himself. And then you've got Hawthorn in fourth. I still believe that they're a really good side. I think it might take them a minute or two to gel in terms of the new players and how that Sicily is going to really work. But and they also have some injuries. But I think that they really hit a run mid-season and go and really... you'll start to see them in the mid after the bye. They'll really be in that contention for the double chance. Sydney in fifth. I always tried to be a little bit, tried to take away my bias. Sydney is a really good side, and obviously this could go wrong, and in that saying that they could finish outside of the top 8, but I still think they're a really strong list. They've got some injuries at the moment. Errol Goulden and Mills, McDonald and Cunningham are confirmed out. You've got Papley and Brodie Grundy, who are tests to play, I believe, are the main ones. And that's when this video goes out, you'll probably see that. But those guys could impact early season form, and so they may drop a couple games, as well as they have some tough fixtures there as well. But generally, I think Sydney is the SCG can sort of become a fortress, and that's why they finish fifth. Carlton sick. They have massive injuries at the moment, but I think that they overcome that. Freo 7th, Gold Coast 8th. Gold Coast making finals for the first time. I think that their home base, their home stadium, is at Heritage Bank, or People's First. Which one is it nowadays? That home stadium is going to be pretty much a fortress like it was last year, and I think that they just win a couple more games. Second year Dimmer, I think that they do better, and I think Rioli and John Noble will be huge recruits. Adelaide moving up the table a little bit to 9th. So they're the 9th place team, the unlucky sort of loser in this, or the first non-finals team, I would say. And then Port 10th, Western Bulldogs 11th, Melbourne 12th. If you aren't following along, you'll see it on the side screen anyway, on screen at the moment. GWS 13th, Essendon 14th, St Kilda 15th, North Melbourne 16th, West Coast 17th, and Richmond rounding us out with 18th. A little bit of probably no surprise in the bottom 3, I would say. I still think that St Kilda, there's still a little bit of a gap between that sort of 15th and 16th of St Kilda and North Melbourne. And so that's why North, I couldn't really place them higher than the other teams as Essendon and St Kilda, and even GWS down in 13th. I have no confidence in GWS, if you haven't realised. In the actual game by game, you'll see that there's a little bit more confidence. But yeah, I just don't think that their list, people are going to realise it that much. The big list missing of Peatling coming, and also Perryman. I think that those 3 out are going to be a massive influence, as well as Tom Green missing early, as well as the suspended guys. They missed the first 2 rounds. So you've got they could easily go 0-2 or something like that, and then just suddenly they're going to have to pick up the pieces without a lot of their young, more, I guess, mid-20s guys that they had in Peatling, Perryman, and Cumming. So that's the reason behind that. As we switch it over to the ladder prediction itself, I'm going to go from 18th all the way up to 1st. and then we'll compare how they sort of rank with the actual, just putting my ladder prediction itself. So Richmond I had in 18th at 2-21, winning 2 games. I think they were against maybe a West Coast and like a St Kilda or something like that. It wasn't a top team that they won. I just don't see them winning too many games. I think 1, 2, that's sort of the range that they'll sit at. I know that they've got guys, more of their veterans should be back this year, but I still think that their list was cut deep so that it can be a 24-month rebuild rather than a sort of 48-month rebuild, that to sort of get in front of the Tasmania introduction. West Coast in 17th at 4-19. I think that they're going to be just still in and around the market. I couldn't really... They'll probably find a way, because usually what we see is that teams down the bottom snag a win. We saw Richmond against Sydney last year snag that win. West Coast have beaten like Melbourne and some other sides up near enough around the top 8 last year, I believe. So they could easily snag up to sort of that 6-7 win range, but I don't think they'll go much more than that. North Melbourne 6-17 in 16th. That's the same bottom 3 as what I've got in my sort of thought. So 6-17 for North. So they finally start to pick up some more wins. It's basically double what they've been doing the last couple of years, I think, as it's 15 wins in the last 5 for them, I believe. So will be interesting. I think they're only going to get better now with their young core developing. I really like Powell and LDU and Sheasel, obviously. Colin McKercher will be interesting to see what role he sort of transitions to, because I feel like he can't be playing that half-back role. And I don't think he'll be as influential in that half-forward spot as he would be maybe off a wing or even getting some CBAs. But I think that they definitely have recruited well, getting the experience of Daniel, Parker and Darling in to help them out there. 15th, St Kilda, same thing as what I had for my other ladder, 8-15. So you can see that gap start to create there. I could easily see them staying a couple games. I think they were one of the teams that lost to like a Richmond or a West Coast, etc. So, but then I think I had them winning a game against like Adelaide or Hawthorn. And you'll see those guys up the table, etc. So, St Kilda could easily be a team that gets 11 or so wins. I just don't know, with that midfield being down and out and all the injuries that they've got already, that they might get off to a slow start and then not be able to recover. Port Adelaide, I have a very, very low in the game-by-game prediction, 9-14. That would spell the end to Ken Hinkley. I think the Butters injuries definitely affects them quite a lot. They've also got quite a lot of their key defenders out, I think, at the moment. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out for them, as that could massively impact them across the year, especially in the first part of the year. So that's why they're in 14th. 13th, Essendon, 10-13. They're just always, St Kilda always feel like the team that's just, you have high hopes for them, and then in the end, they get to like 10th to like 13th, 14th, and you're like, well, it's just another year down the drain, I guess, almost in a way. So I hope Essendon do prove me wrong, but 10-13 for 13th seems pretty harsh that 40 points gets you to 13th. Then Melbourne jump up again, and they actually have a winning record on this of 12-11 and somehow get to 12th. I don't know how that doesn't feel right, that the 12th place team gets 48 points and misses out, but it is what it is. Melbourne 12-11, and that just, it feels like they could have one last push in them, but also at the same time, Melbourne, maybe I've overreacted to the big core being back to their best. They will need a forward line to somehow conjure up wins, and that's where they probably could fall short of finals. But 12-11 will be interesting. The Bulldogs, I don't have too much confidence with all the chaos that's going down there. Bont out for the first part of the season, or first month. Treloar, pretty much the same thing. Then you've got Jamara, who is on personal leave or training, but not going to be playing. Liam Jones out, Cody Waitman out, just the chaos of injuries early. I think they get themselves into a hole and they might not be able to get out of it. Then you have Gold Coast in 10th. This one kind of sucks, 13-10, that they go 13 wins and miss out basically on percentage. And percentage separates them from 7th. That's how close this is. So they could easily jump in. That's just a matter of beating up on the bad teams more, which honestly, if you look at it, that could easily happen, as I wasn't predicting huge outlandish margins, and we know that there's going to be someone could get Richmond when they're bad, or a team when they're bad, and suddenly instead of it being a 5-goal game, it's like a 10, 15-goal game, and suddenly that's the percentage booster that you need, because that'll be the way that you get 3, 4, 5 more percent on your end of season percentage, and that's the way that you get the into finals over missing out. So Gold Coast in 10th, but very, very close to being in the top 8. Then you have GWS in 9th, so the game-by-game predictor had them a little bit better, and I think that's more so because they still won in Sydney, I feel like, against the Swans. Maybe was it Spotless or NG Stadium now, I think is the name. Yeah, I think they probably win that game when you probably don't think about it that way in terms of the actual, when you think about the ladder. And they have other winnable games. So 13 and 10 feels roughly around the mark for them. When you consider everything, I'm not as high as what other content creators are, and that's just solely based on the factors we talked earlier about with Perryman, Peatling, and Cumming all leaving, as well as Cornelio getting older. Kelly's already injury prone, I would say. Tom Green's already out. Their midfield core looks really, really weak at the moment. And then in 8th place, I've got Adelaide. So instead of 9th in the thought, they're 8th in the full game-by-game ladder prediction at 13 and 10. So all these 13 and 10 teams could obviously swap around. But yeah, Adelaide sneak in to finals to only play Carlton, which Carlton only game better. So that just shows how tight this is in the end. This bracket from just looking at it here, 5th down to 12th is 2 games. 2 games difference from 5th to 12th. 7 spots for 7 teams for 2 games wins. So yeah, Adelaide's 13 and 10. I think they make finals. I think that their forward line is a lot better with Thilthorpe in it, and also I think that their midfield now, with Peatling there, ranking getting more time, it's suddenly so much more dynamic and so much more doesn't rely on quantity rather than just getting good quality clearances, that they will jump up dramatically, I feel like. So 8th could be a really good spot. 8th, 9th for them across both is, I think, the spot that they'll land. Then I've got 7th, Hawthorn, 13 and 10. Yeah, I could easily see them finishing in and around anywhere from about 4th to 9th or so is sort of the range that I would say I see them finishing. I really like their young core. I think they're dynamic, but I also think that their form could go very up and down based on that such young core of all the youngsters in Ginnivan, Watson, D'Ambrosio, etc. All of those young guys there. They could go up and down, so I definitely think they're quality, but 7th I think is around the market, 13 wins, 10 losses. Then in 6th, you've got Sydney at 14 and 9. I think this is around the marker. 5th, 6th, 7th is somewhere that I could see them finishing. Obviously trying to keep it as unbiased as I can. I do think that their list is pretty good, but also I think a lot of other Swans fans have pointed out that they could get off to a rough start here and lose. They could go 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, something like that, and then suddenly have to pick up the pieces from there. But you'd back them in with their list, as it seems like it's a little bit deeper this year, more experience or more ready-made bodies, especially in the back line. Yes, they do have, I think it's an 11-man injury list at the moment, but I think that they can, once those guys get cleared off, it should be a little bit easier for Sydney to pick up the wins there. Carlton as well, 14 and 9, so you could easily swap those 2 teams around. I mean, one's 5th and one's 6th on either of the ladders that I've got, so I think that those 2 could be really, really in and around that marker for the, elimination finals, for hosting a finals there, but not getting double chance. Then in 4th place, I've got Fremantle at 15 and 8. I just think that the teams they get to play, I think that they get pretty much almost 2 wins against West Coast because of the derbies there. I don't know who else they have in the double as well, but yeah, I just think that their team is definitely stacked up a little bit deeper this year, especially in the midfield. I think they've got a really good midfield core this year. It does suck that Hayden Young's out for round 1, I believe, at least. so that could impact them. But I definitely think that their forward line as well, their key forwards, could do really well in Tracy and Amos, that could carry them a little bit. And then they've got a pretty strong back line as well when fully fit, especially Brendan Cox. When he's fully fit, he does add that intercepting element that they kind of need. Then in third, Collingwood, same again, across both ladders for them, 15 and 8. I think that they're just a team that will definitely run close and could do a lot of damage in finals. So it will just be a question of, can their aging list get them to finals, because that experience could probably get them over the line in finals. Then in second, Brisbane, 16 and 7. Will be interesting to see how they go, but post-Premiership, but 16 and 7, second place, going to give them a big run into finals. I feel like the Gabba could become a fortress yet again. We know in, was it 2023, that they won all of their games at the Gabba, I believe, and just lost away from home, much to the same of, what was it, Gold Coast last year, losing, I think, one game. So Queensland seems to become a fortress for this both sides. So I think that they run it really close. I think they have they drafted really well, even though they just drafted from their academy, but their academy is just producing goods. And so I think that they run it very close this year to go back to back. And then Geelong first at 18 and 5. I think that they've recruited really well to still get younger. I think also that they're some of their draftees of recent years, we always see that happen, that they somehow pull someone out of like second division Western Australian football. I think it was for Humphreys last year, so I watched them do it again. They do have some lingering things over their head that could impact them in the long run, but I think that they'll finish out the year pretty strong, and I think that they go close to getting that premiership again. So the last three premiers, I believe they are top three of the ladder, and then you have pretty much the rest. So on to the individual awards. So first up for the Coleman medal, it's a very interesting decision, because Charlie Curnow, I believe, is missing round one. Obviously, he could not miss round one, and then suddenly this looks dumb. But I looked at the teams and I went, Jessica Cameron, probably too old to, and has one last year in it. Probably, I don't think he gets enough service there to win it. There's no Joe Danaher for Brisbane. Can't really see Brisbane having a breakout there. Collingwood don't really have a key, and I don't think a small or medium's going to win it. Fremantle, I think that those two, Tracy and Amos, take goals off of each other, and I don't see one dominating compared to the other, so I don't think that they have enough. Obviously, you got the Twin Towers at Carlton that could do a really good job of winning it per se. Sydney, I think it would be wild to say Amati, to be honest with you, given that he's probably going to have to take some ruck time as well. Hawthorn, Kalshadir's out for the first half of the year. I can't see a key forward winning it there. I don't think Marby or Chol has necessarily the traits to win it. And then you get to Adelaide, and yeah, my winner for the Coleman would be Riley Thilthorpe. I think that he's just a guy that could absolutely dominate. He looks like a man with the way he's built up in terms of his body. I believe it was a knee injury a couple of years ago for him. It's really built him out physically, and I think he's just ready for the year to come, and I think he goes and wins his first Coleman. Now, Brownlow medal. This one, it's an interesting debate between, I think, 2 or 3 guys, to be honest with you. If you look at the ladder prediction and you try and put it up in terms of the teams and their average ranking, you've got Brisbane, Geelong, Collingwood, obviously all up there and around there. Then you have Freo, who's actually, I think, ranked about 4th or 5th. Sydney's in and around the marker, and Carlton in and around the marker as well. So you sort of got all those teams as probably their main midfielders a chance to win it. If we look at Geelong, do they really have a main midfielder? Holmes or Stewart? Probably the best bet there. Don't think either one can win it. Look at Brisbane, it's probably Neil. I think you can count him as a chance to win it. Collingwood, Dacos, there's definitely a chance there. Freo, Sarong, I definitely think there's a chance there with that. And Carlton with Paddy Cripps obviously could go back to back. We'll see how he shoulders the load there. And then Sydney, Isaac Heaney, can he probably do it? I don't think he can probably do it. Maybe Chad Warner. I think that when you think about it, it probably helps that Errol Gordon is out, sadly, for Sydney, but maybe that also takes some games off of them that they can't win per se. So, yeah, I think Isaac Heaney has him and Warner have too many guys also around them that could just steal a vote here, steal a vote there. We know that Amadi, when he kicks a bag, seems to get a vote or two, so that could just steal votes off. So, if I'm looking at it, I'm probably looking at Brisbane, Collingwood, Freo, and Carlton, their main mids. And this year, I've gone the more vanilla pick of Nick Dacos to win the Brownlow medal. Then we get to the Rising Star. And if you look at I just want to bring it up quickly on the side here, the AFL 2024 draft, and just read out some names here just to show you the Rising Star nominees. And obviously you will have guys like Hugo Garcia and guys like that sub 10 games that are a damn good chance of actually winning it. I believe we saw, was it Luke Jackson in his second or third year get close to winning it? So that'll be interesting to see. But look at this. Sam Layla in doubt for round one. He looks like a good product, but will he win it at Richmond? I don't think so. Finn O'Sullivan, wing roll, he could do really well. Jagger Smith, ACL. Sid Draper looks like a sub-candidate at Adelaide. Levi Ashcroft, he looks like an absolute gun and could get some really those sort of 20-1 performances. Harvey Langford doesn't look like he's got a good enough role at Melbourne. Smiley's injured. Toby Travalia doesn't look like he's going to get a game. Leo Lombard's injured. Alex Toru's injured. David Lindsay's role looks all right, but not too fantastic. Houghton's injured. Kako could do really well at Essendon. He's a good shout of actually winning it as well. And then you've got Jonty Fowler-Tall. Don't think he gets many games. Joe Berry's going to do pretty well at Port. Then you've got Bo Allen. Don't think a lockdown sort of defender's going to do too well. Murphy Reid could do all right, but he's sort of way back in that midfield mix. And then you get to sort of these small forwards, and I don't know if a small forward's necessarily going to win it. It's usually the ball magnets that do. And for that exact reason, I'm going to go Levi Ashcroft. It does seem a very vanilla pick. It probably would have been Jagger Smith if he hadn't done his ACL. But yeah, I'm just not so... I'm worried about Sid Draper's job security early on, that Levi might just get a little bit away from him early on. And that's why I think he will be the guy to get the Rising Star. So, All-Australian debut, and it's actually a tough one to look at in terms of All-Australians. I'm just double checking that this guy hasn't had an All-Australian so far. He might have had All-Australian 40, but I don't think he's had All-Australian, not even named in All-Australian best 40. But, there's just plenty of guys. I think Sheasel hasn't been named before. Tristan Cherry, I think hasn't been named before, if I remember correctly. So, it's definitely... There's obvious selections here, but I'm going to go for a little bit of an outlier, I would say, in terms of Isaac Rankin to get the first nod there, as I think he's a guy that could really, really light up that midfield. And much like we saw with, I think, Heaney and Warner last year, these guys that are forwards in nature that kick, say, 30, 40 goals, could just be selected at half forward for the All-Australian team. But we'll see how the All-Australian team gets selected, because hopefully this year, well, with Errol Gordon not being selectable, what are they going to do with the wing roles? Are they going to give it to D'Ambrosio? Because Josh Dacos has gone to half back, so they may actually chuck some on-ballers on the wing in the All-Australian list there. Then we get to one of the last ones we have in terms of player awards, and it is the best recruit. I obviously named Houston, Perryman, Peatling. All these guys are going to be pretty good. Just thinking down the list, Geelong, I don't think they brought... Bailey Smith, actually, sorry. They brought him across. He looks to be playing wing role. Don't know if that'll be as impactful. Brisbane, they didn't bring anyone in. I'm not including draftees. Collingwood, obviously, Dan Houston. For Fremantle, Shea Bolton, he could be an interesting one, and I think he actually is the one I'm going to select. I did think about going with Caleb Daniel, but North aren't going to improve that much in terms of wins. I think it'll be closer wins. So I did think Caleb Daniel, just based on the value that they got him for, could be a really good selection. But also Freo, the Shea Bolton could just take their sort of small forwards to the next level. like they have their Sam Swiskowski and Michael Walters there, it could just allow their midfielders a little bit more rest as well, because he can go into the midfield and play. He's played 40-50% CBAs before, so I think he's the one that could really take that next step up, and he's the reason that they go top 4 or so in the ladder prediction. So that's why I've got not Caleb Daniel, Shea Bolton as the best recruit. Then we get down to the most important, I guess, team award is the actual premiers. If you look at it, I don't know if you can, and I know that this seems counterintuitive because it's happened before, but I don't think you can really say that a team 5th to 8th is going to win a premiership. So that pretty much rules out Carlton, Sydney, Hawthorn to a certain extent. And I'll just rule them out now anyway alongside that, even though they finished 4th in the when I was thinking about the sides, just because of their youthfulness, and they haven't really got as many like flag players compared to other teams. So that's why I'd have them not winning it. Then you've got Adelaide as well. I just think that they're going to make finals. They maybe win a final, but I don't know if they'll go all the way in terms of from 8th to winning it is a very, very long way back. So that pretty much puts the remaining teams in of Brisbane, Geelong, Collingwood, and Hawthorn. I think that that Freo, it would be tough for them to go all the way. Playing away from home at the MCG, it kind of is tough, especially for them, as they would probably have a big travel post the second last game of the year. So they would have that big travel and it would be tough. But so I think you can rule it out. And I think you've got the top 3 teams that I had both across what I initially thought and the ladder prediction of Geelong, Brisbane, and Collingwood. I think you will see one of these 3 is going to win back the Premiership from when they won it in the last couple of years. So I think the grand final will be Collingwood versus Brisbane at the MCG, a repeat. Brisbane make their 3rd grand final in a row, is it, at this point? Collingwood make their 2nd grand final in, is it 4 years, something like that. And so the actual premiers that I have this year is Collingwood. I just think that if they can get to September and be in the hunt, it's when they're going to really be able to show off that experience and that grand final experience. And obviously you've got Brisbane, and I just wonder if the going for it back to back will be a little bit harder. Will obviously be harder, but doing that alongside no Joe Danaher might just not be what they can get over in the end, as he was a massive influence on the grand final. So that's the season predictions for the AFL 2025 season. If you guys did enjoy that video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. And if you are listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there. And I will see you guys back here tomorrow for the game predictions to start round 0. So I'll see you guys then. Bye, guys.